Hi, my name is Charles Brubaker, and I'm a cartoonist and animator, and I've been cartooning for quite a while. I'm, I got first published when I was 16 in a really small newspaper in Tennessee. And then since then I've been in Mad Magazine. And okay, so yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, so I was cartooning forever, and I did comic strips throughout college, and but I made my first big sale when I sold a there was a for the SpongeBob comic book. I sold a gag and wrote and illustrated. And if I can get the screen, let me see if yeah. And here's the this is the can you see the comic?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, this is the comic I sold to SpongeBob comic, and I sold a few more since then. Here's another story I did, and I realized you can't really read it, from the monitor, but I just wanted to show. Then around the same time, and I created a comic strip called Ask a Cat, which got picked up by Go Comics, in 2015, and it's a the strip. If I had to describe the premise, it's where a cat answers readers' letters, and here's an example. Dear Cat, do you dress up for special occasions? Not really. The most we ever do is wear a collar when we go to a fancy event. Which collar matches our fur? Of course, when every one of us wears bells, the event turns out to be one constant headache after another. Ring, 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 ring. For this reason, I envy tuxedo cats. They don't even need a collar. I was born ready. It's just an example of a strip. I did Ask a Cat for 5 years, and after that, around the same time, I started a new comic called The Fuzzy Princess. It's about alien cat princess you know who lives with humans and have to get along. And so I've been doing comics nonstop, and really since around 2014 is when I really started professionally. My my goal has always been animation, and I've been wanting to do animation for a while. And while in college, I made this, and I'm gonna, and this is a cartoon I made in college. And oops. So yeah, that was my first real for it animation. I made that on 16 millimeter film, and I actually had a camera that I bought on eBay, and I drew that on copy paper during the Christmas break, in 2011 or something from the university, and made that in a week. I shot it on 16 millimeter, and I mailed the negative to the company in Maryland, I believe, to have it developed, and then got sent back. And yeah, so that now my goal is to do animation. I made that, but well, I guess I wanted to work in animation, and it was kind of it's I tried, and I even moved to LA in for about a month, trying to get jobs in Nickelodeon, whatever, and that didn't work. But it was during my time in California, when I met one of the storyboard artists for the SpongeBob TV show, and he also worked on a comic book version, and told me all about how they hire independent cartoonists to draw pages for them. So I ended up contacting the editor, and that's how I got published in the SpongeBob comic book. And that was one of my favorite jobs. I had a blast doing them. Sadly, they ceased publication a few years ago, right before this creator SpongeBob passed away. And But yeah, and you know, so my trip to LA wasn't a total waste since it did get me started on the whole freelancing comics thing, and I did some storyboards, for a boutique animation studio, you know, for a while though. That was kind of a rip off in hindsight, but that's a top trick for another day. But however, last year, with pandemic, canceling everything, and I would normally go to conventions a lot, but everything going to hell last year prevented that. So I had a lot of free time suddenly. So, and this made me think about my first passion, animation, and how I wanted to do it. And I decided, what the hell, and a friend, I tried a variety of animation softwares like Krita, or, you know, I couldn't handle, you know, for a while, the, for a while, uh, Flash, was the most accessible animation software, and there were a lot of online animation done in Flash, when I was a kid, and I watched a lot of that, but I could never get a hang of the software. But since that time, more and more, software options for animation became available, and Krita is one of them. Toon Boom, which is mostly used by professionals in the TV animation industry, and even Clip Studio Paint has animation. And you know, due to a suggestion from a friend, I decided to try Toon Boom, and which was easy to use, thankfully. And I decided, I have, since then, I've drawn hundreds of pages of Ask a Cat and Fuzzy Princess, so I had a lot of material I could turn into animation, and I decided, so I made this cartoon. It was, based on the Ask a Cat, and I'll play it. Hold on, let me play.
Okay, Mouse, this is our first time in animation, so let's not blow it. It seems silly, though. Who would want to watch us? Don't you know anything? The two things people enjoy the most on the internet are pointless bickering on social media and pictures of cute cats. Cute cats, huh? Well, you got the cat part right. I guess that's good enough. Oh, don't push it, Mousy. Even with that in mind, isn't the competition strong? I don't think we can beat Simon's cat. Oh, don't you worry. Our loyal readership from the comic strip will rush to us. All 24 of them. Dear Cat, why do you need on people? Oh, that's simple. Us cats always fantasize about kneading bread. I mean, can you blame us? It looks so much fun. We tried making our own bread, but we couldn't comprehend flour. Well, just how do flours work, man? I hate you, flour. Since we can't knead bread, we just knead on you guys instead. I mean, it's not our fault you guys are soft. Dear Cat, if dogs go to heaven, where do cats go? Now we can go anywhere we want, silly. Even in death, nothing can stop us from moving around. Normally, cats like to go to purgatory the most. Your kitty, you're so cute. Of course, when you have nothing to do, having a cat around is exciting. However, heaven is still a pretty neat place to be around.
So yeah, I made that last year, and that was really the start of my new career path, so to speak. And yeah, and I used material. I mostly used material from the comic strip to do it, and then hold on. I'll post a YouTube link, for my channel so you can see. So you can see what I do. So yeah. Thank you, Liz. Yeah. So I did that with Toon Boom, and I actually did like some of the animation on paper, mostly because I couldn't. Oh, Jeffrey, the voices was done by my good friend Ty Konzek. He was, and yeah, I should try Blender, but I don't know. Yeah. To answer your question, I use Clip Studio Paint nowadays to do my animation, and I did a few. I'm actually using it for my current cartoon. Here's an example of here's an example of another animation I've done, and yeah. Yeah, here's a cartoon I did like last month, and I used Clip Studio, Paint and that, and how to coordinate sound to mouth movements. It's all hand drawn, so and I would use this is to Steve Greenberg. So for lip synchronization, well, I would get after I get the voices, I would import it to the software, and then it's just a matter of just listening over and over, little by little, to get the mouth movements, to match, and it doesn't, I would take liberties, especially if they talk fast, but as long as it looks nice. And a lot of animation softwares have a thing called audio scrubbing where you can drag the sound and it can do like how like one vowel at a time, and so it's really a matter of just listening to the voice over and over and just try to draw mouth as it matches. And here and here's a cartoon I made last month, you know with Clip Studio Paint, and yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was a silly cartoon I did, showcasing. It was really a test animation for a cartoon I'm making right now based on the Fuzzy Princess. And one of her shtick is that she takes her tail off and transforms and shapeshifts it. So I did that 30-second animation, just showcasing that, to mainly to see how it would look when I animated it. And yeah, I've done about three or four shorts since then, but those are examples of what I've done. Yeah. So and I can show one more. I can show one more. And this is an example. Here's another one I did last October, and this is probably the one I'm most proud of, called Cat and Cat, which is a crossover between Ask a Cat and the Fuzzy Princess. Man, it was, and this is, and I worked with another animator friend, who did half of the animation for this, and mainly to see how it would work, when I work with another animator, and worked well, thankfully. So yeah, a friend and named Will Wright, who's a really great animator. He's based in Great Britain, and he's making his own game now. And here's Cat and Cat.
Well, dear cat, do you know Princess Cat? Yes, I know her well. We run into each other all the time. We're frequently cast together in films, but because we're, a guy and a girl, they always have us in cheesy rom-com movies. Yes, typical Hollywood typecasting. Well, what we really want to do is star in a heist flick.
Oh, Cat, even though we barely met, I think we're destined to rob this bank!
Heck yeah!
Agent Mom, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Katrina, you should be near the vault. Do you see it?
Roger. And there are 2 guards in the room.
Okay, you know what to do.
Meow. Meow.
Aww. Here, kitty. What are you doing here? Oh, you're adorable.
All right, Cat can do that thing with her tail. Ugh, it's kind of creepy. Oh, she certainly is talented, though. She has some chops when it comes to drawing.
There. What do you think?
Hey, I like it.
Granted, she's a big nerd. A really, really big nerd. And also kind of a big pain in the butt. And I mean that literally.
Yeah, that was Cat and Cat, and probably would have made sense to anybody who doesn't read the comic, but I think it's the best one I've done so far. And yeah, right now, like as I mentioned, right now my goal, I'm working on a new cartoon, based on my other comic, The Fuzzy Princess, a full length, you know, quote unquote pilot, for an online web animation series that hopefully I'll do more of. But yeah, and right now I'm in a process of doing and I've been animating that. Yeah, I've been animating that for a while, and you know, and here like I have a storyboard, on the side, to use as a guide as I'm animating. It's pretty big. Yeah, I keep the storyboards here, as I animate. Yeah, because this very room where I'm speaking this from is my quote unquote office. So. And yeah, here's an example. Here's a work in progress sneak preview of the Fuzzy Princess cartoon. Sure. Again.
Yes, Katrina's about as normal as a fuzzy princess can be. Fluffy ears, sharp claws, long whiskers, and a tail. Well, perhaps that part is not so normal. You see, Katrina's tail is a rather unique work of magic. For at any moment, the princess can reshape it into the form and function she so desires.
Neat.
And yep. Well, yeah. That's basically what I do. Yeah, and hope you enjoyed the animations I've shown, and I shared the link, in a chat, for my YouTube channel, which has even more examples. Let me link again. Yeah, so hope you all enjoyed that. Anyone have questions? Feel free to speak or write in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer. So.
Oh, definitely. Let me turn.
Thank you.
Back on.
Yeah.
How is like you said, you're doing the pilot for an online web.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like a big site where they feature all animations?
It's just YouTube, and Newgrounds, which is Newgrounds is a website that's been around for like 20 years, where you host animation, on the web, and yeah, it's still around, and yeah, this was before YouTube, and that's where people posted web animation online, when they were done with Flash or whatever. So yeah, it's all independent. So yeah.
I was also interested in like because you were syndicated for a while. Like, how did that like happen?
like
Like, how did
transition
you?
to
Well, no,
animation.
I mean, how did you get syndicated?
Oh,
Like,
oh yeah, it was online syndicate through Go Comics, which is Andrews McNeil and formerly Universal Press. And honestly, I just submitted like a dozen, 2 dozen or so Ask a Cat strips I've done at that point because I've been posting it online, myself, and then I drew enough, so I just sent it to Andrews McNeil, and they liked it, and they just said they picked it up for Go Comics, and or they ran it
like,
for like
like,
5 6 years.
like digital. You sent them digital strips or something like that.
Yeah, it was digital strips. Yeah, web comics.
Wow.
And Liz says, "Would you be comfortable sharing Clip Studio paints?" Sure, I can do that. Yeah, sure. Actually, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, this is a okay. Let me show some scenes I have done already. Let me check. Actually, that I can. Yeah, I can show. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let me get this open. Yeah. Oops. Okay, so yeah, like I mentioned before, that I use Clip Studio Paint to make these, and okay, so can you see the Clip Studio Paint?
Hmm.
Yeah, so this is the Clips. Okay, yeah. So here's the Clip Studio Paint, and yeah, this is so Clip Studio Paint. Each layer is actually its own folder. You can see and I have separate. So I have a folder for backgrounds. This is the backgrounds, and I have the pencils underneath. It's kind of hard to see, but here's the pencils. Let me, yeah, I got a lot of, yeah, there's a lot of layers here. So, because each body, so here are the pencils, and yeah, so
Do you use Windows or Mac?
I use Windows. I'm
Okay,
very much,
so Clip Studio Paint is Windows.
and I think I could work in both.
I have it
Even
on my Mac. I'm trying to figure out how to use it with Sidecar so I can get the pressure sensitivity of my iPad.
You can,
But it's really fun.
you can use it for Sidecar. Unfortunately, the pressure sensitivity isn't quite what I'd like it to be. So,
okay.
but inking works just fine.
Oh, awesome.
Did you put all the like body parts on different layers, or is like
That
the mouth?
depends. Yeah, yeah. Normally for me, I like to keep everything in one, unless a body part moves independent. Like for example, the tail. Like, yeah, hold on. Let me show. Like, yeah, let me find it. Okay, here's an example. Like, so since the tail moves, since
Tail?
yeah, since the tail moves, independently from the rest of the body, I have a separate layer. You can see if I turn it off, it disappears. So yeah, it's just two drawings. Two drawings I flip back and forth. But
Just from a
and
technical.
yeah, and here's too, because and here the ears are separate layers, and this is especially noticeable in the color as well. And here's another, and yeah, and the eyes are, since the yeah, she blinks, so eyes are different separate layers. Here's how she looks without it. Weird, I know. And then
So like
Yeah.
when she makes a move, you only have to do like 2 or 3 drawings, and it just makes it look smooth, kind of. Or
Yeah, I do tend to do that. 2 or 3, yeah. Since I work with limited animation because I do everything myself. And let's see. Yeah, I can. Where are her arms? Yeah, here the. Yeah, here the arms are separate layers. So yeah, and then yeah. But when the whole body is moving, I tend to prefer drawing in one layer just because it's easier that way. But yeah.
Okay. And from just a
And, and then
technical
here. Mhm.
and just from a technical level, just how much can you do before you have to move this to another platform? I mean, I could tell you had an audio file in there, but beyond that,
Oh, like what other software I have to use additionally? You
yes.
like to? Yeah, I use an editing software called DaVinci Resolve, which
Mm.
is a professional post production software, and I you can surprisingly get for free. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, hold on. Yeah, they could get for free. Where that's where I edit it together. Add the sound effects. I have a huge collection of sound effects that I saved. Over time, about 600 files of sound effects, and it's still growing. And then I would, you know, open DaVinci Resolve. Put all the scenes together. Crossfades or whatever if needed. And then I add the sound effects, and that's where I mix the sound and the stock music. I mostly use Kevin MacLeod, who's a because it's royalty free software and you can use it for free. It's just about every it's very very commonly used, but again, it's free, so that's what I use. And then after everything is done, I render it as a video file, and that's when I upload on YouTube or elsewhere.
do you
So
have to
yeah.
like oh, export it like from Clip Studio to DaVinci? Do you have to save it out as something to get it into DaVinci Resolve?
Uh, yeah, I save it out. Like you can save as MP4, and what I do is I save it as individual as image sequence. What that means is it just saves a image file of every single frame. Yeah, which is convoluted, I know, but it actually works pretty well. Then I import it on DaVinci Resolve, which automatically, you know, sit, you know, sequences it, so you can actually play back, as a video file. Yeah. When I worked at Toon Boom, I saved each sequence as a QuickTime MOV file, which I also, uploaded, which I also put it on DaVinci. Yeah. So yeah. Any other question, or hopefully I answered the question about
Well,
how
this
I
isn't
do.
a technical question, but I was wondering where you get your inspiration, because as when I saw that you were into cats and everything, I started thinking about
Uh-huh.
plasmosis. Do you
Uh-huh.
know about toxoplasmosis?
No, what is that?
It's a parasitic way of cats kind of can control humans with it.
I have like 6 cats inside, so yeah, I'm surrounded by cats. Yeah, I have like 6 cats at home. So yeah, there
You can
I've
look it up.
definitely.
How how challenging has it been to like shift from the um like I've been doing a webcomic for years, but I'm trying to like shift from the immediate gratification of like webcomic, you created it, you put it up, to like longer form, whether it's try to have enough of a backlog to submit elsewhere or do like longer projects. And that challenge of like going from immediate gratification to much, much slower gratification. I imagine it's even harder with animation.
Yeah,
It's a much slower
yeah,
process.
yeah. I get what you mean. Like I'm a pretty impatient person myself, and I tend to draw pretty fast. So yeah. So on one hand, I can actually produce animation fairly quick because I tend to draw pretty fast. Like, I showed you that cat, the animation of cat switching her tail, and that only took me like a couple days to make, but it's only 30 seconds. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome. A couple of days
yeah,
for 30 seconds?
yeah. It's a 30 second. Yeah, I can animate like 10 seconds on average every day. I think if I really in the mood. So,
I
but
want to.
yeah, but yeah, obviously, this is the one I'm working on right now is about 10 minutes, so it's going to take a lot longer than a couple days, as you can imagine. But I'm a, I'm kind of reserving 1 year production since I'm doing almost everything myself. Although I have a friend doing backgrounds for me. But yeah, So as far as instant gratifications, well, there are ways. Like I still post, like work in progress. There's pencil tests, sketches. So I have something to show, and occasionally I do, entirely unrelated animation. Like as a like say a gift art for friends. On their birthday, I might do a little simple GIF animation. So yeah, I think I have the advantage since like I said, I tend to draw pretty fast. So and I'm pretty impatient. Part of that is because I'm impatient, and part of that is because I had clients who wanted comics done like within a day. So I kind of had learned having to draw fast, for both these reasons. And oh, Steve asked, any monetize animation? I have a Patreon, that I use. I had a Patreon since when I was doing only comics, and after I transitioned, after I mostly transitioned to animation, I started focusing on animation on Patreon, and yeah, it's a slow grow, but it is an option, and I do make few few money out of it. It does help me out, paying the voice actors, because I do hire voice actors for these, and occasionally other artists if I bring them in. So and real for YouTube animators that are very popular, they do make ad revenues on YouTube. You have to reach like I think 1,000 subscribers or something in order to get the option, and I only have like 300 so far, but it's been growing. So, and I know, like I said, I know people who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So, just a matter of keeping at it and finding your audience. And as far as how many hours, I tend to work at night. I'm a night owl, so I do most of my animation work during nighttime. Just I don't know why. I just do better. I have an easier time doing cartoons at night. So and Chara asked, "What was the thing that most inspired you to become a cartoonist animator?" And well, I watched a lot of animation. Like I was a huge fan of Looney Tunes. They were still rerunning that, so I watched a lot of that. And Rocky and Bullwinkle was another huge influence for me. And early Nickelodeon cartoons like Rocko's Modern Life was also huge. And also seeing independent animation like Bill Plimpton is a very famous indie animator from Portland, living in New York, and he does everything himself, and he proved you can make animation, with only a small crew. And he made like 5 or 6 feature length movies, he animated all by himself. And I figured, if he could do it, so can I. So eventually did. Yeah.
Did you, how did you learn to animate in Clip Studio Paint? Did you just pick it up or just learn, teach
Yeah, I
yourself?
just yeah, I just picked it up. Like I've been using Clip Studio Paint for a while for illustration and comics. A lot of people use Clip Studio Paint anymore, these days. And I knew they had an animation software. And at that point, I think I was getting frustrated with Toon Boom, which I actually think is a better software, but good interface. But I really hate the subscription, thing, because it was very much meant for studio use, like Disney or DreamWorks or Cartoon Network or whatever. So, and how you say, might as well try learning another software. So I just kind of, you know, trial and error, to figure out the quirks of Clip Studio Paint. Now it's my favorite animation software, especially because you can use their brushes, Clip Studio brushes, and I'm super picky about how the line art works because I don't want it to be super clean like with Flash. Or a lot of animation softwares are very unflexible when it comes to customizing your brushes because I want it to look a certain way. Even though it's drawn directly on digital, I want it to have that Xeroxed cell look, like in Disney movies made in the 60s and 70s or in TV cartoons from that era. I wanted to look like the line art was Xeroxed. So even though it's 100% digital, and yeah, Clip Studio is very good. Yeah, I like Clip Studio, so I'm glad we can do this. Yeah. So anything else I should cover?
Charles, I'm curious, you were born in Japan?
Yes, I was born in Japan and I lived there until I was like 18.
Wow.
I was in Japan and Tennessee back and forth for a number of years, but since then I moved to Tennessee permanently.
And you prefer here or there or?
Well, I don't know. I miss Japan, but on plus side, bigger house in Tennessee, so yeah, that's Japan tends to be pretty crowded because it's a much smaller country. So,
What town in Japan did you live?
place called Hasami, which is in the Nagasaki Prefecture in Kyushu. It's a pottery town. It's very small. Yeah, it's a very tiny town in Japan, but yeah, it's about an hour drive from Sasebo, which is there's a U.S. Navy base in Sasebo, so and my family did a lot of work, teaching Marines in Sasebo, so that's why we lived in Hasami. It was because it
Nice.
was, not
Do
too
you speak
far.
Japanese? I would
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Has it influenced your art in any way?
Oh yeah, like I was definitely influenced by Japanese cartoonists like Fujio Akatsuka, who I found out that Sergio Aragonis was apparently friends with Akatsuka because when Mad Magazine went on a trip to Japan in the 70s and 80s or something, and they made out with a lot of Japanese artists there because a lot of Japanese artists were influenced by Mad. So 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 I was surprised when I learned that Sergio got to know him. Oh, as Mark said, you went to Japan in '79. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, it did influence how I draw, the cartoonier aspects of Japanese cartoons, especially. Yeah.
How did you get involved with doing anything for Mad Magazine?
Oh, oh yeah. They used to have a thing called the Strip Club where it was a bunch of different comic strips, mostly by. Did you work? I think you were published in Mad for a while, right?
Yeah, I was in Mad for a few times.
Yeah. I remember. I actually saw. I might actually have one of yours reprinted somewhere, but anyway, yeah, they had a strip club for a while, and I found out, who was in charge of a strip club, and I mailed him, whatever strips I had to him, and he happened to like one of them. So
was that Bill Morrison?
No, this is before. This is when they were still in New York, and shoot, what was his name? It was one of the art directors who was in charge, and actually, it's been a few years, so. It was. Yeah, shoot. Yeah, it was. This was before. Yeah, it's probably bad look that I don't remember. Ryan Flanders, yeah, he was the associate art director of Mad at the time, and he was in charge of the strip club. So I sent him samples of my work, and he liked one of them, and I had a short series in strip club for a while. He teamed up. We got teamed up with Pat Dorian, who illustrated. He had a really good style, and yeah. So that was my man story, and
Very cool.
sadly, after that gig kind of went away after Bill Morrison took over because everybody I worked with was gone. So, oh well. And Matt is gone now, so mostly gone now, except for reruns.
Yeah, it only exists right now doing reprints. They do new covers. They did find somebody to do new fold-ins.
Yeah.
And they might have an occasional new piece. The rest of it's all reprints.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like I got, this is like a few years before, all that happened. So I kind of feel like I got in just right before it all went down. So
yeah,
good timing, in hindsight. And I got into SpongeBob like a couple years before that got shut down. So yeah, I tend to get published, right before things go under, I guess.
Isn't that
Welcome to my life. Welcome to my life.
Charles, maybe I missed it, but Stan asked a question. How many frames or cells per second do you use for your animation?
It's 24 frames per second, but I tend to animate in threes mostly, usually sometimes twos and threes.
Okay. Is that about average? I remember reading this article about the new Spider-Man Spider-Verse movie doing 16
drawings per second. 16 per second?
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds about right. And so I tend to do like three, animated threes, which means one drawing every 3 frames, or so because I kind of like the choppy animation looks, and I try to achieve that. So yeah.
Isn't the three considered the anime speed?
Yeah, kind of.
That's kind of like what they go toward.
And Bill Plimpton, I think, animates in threes too. So, but that's since that he has a very choppy style, and I like that. So, and also again, I'm doing everything myself, so economical and it's stylish. That's pretty much my style.
Have you ever heard of Nina Paley's animations?
I've seen, I've seen her stuff. Yeah,
it's some good stuff. What got me was that female animators tend to do some odd things. She's actually done animation with embroidery.
Oh, wow!
Which is fabulous, but labor intensive.
Yeah. And there was another female animator I remember that I think worked with Bill Plimpton for. There was a female animator from Latvia, and she had to she did her own version of the stop motion backgrounds that Max Fleischer did back in the 30s. Where it had 2D animation, 3D backgrounds, and I remember there was this animator from Latvia who did the. Hold on, let me. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has seen the YouTube channel Overly Sarcastic, but they have some of the most fun retellings and fresh and crazy drawings of everything from the Iliad to Don Quixote. It's really a lot of fun, and watching the artist improve over time. Nice. And getting very, very in control of her art. They're wonderful though. They're really well, like I say, it's called Overly Sarcastic, and it is a very wonderful channel and a lot of fun. Although they've made an awful lot of videos and they're like popcorn.
Yeah, Signy Ballman, yeah.
Oh yeah, Steven's mentioning Nina's sadomasochism. Oh, that gorgeous piece.
There's an animator I recommend checking out called Johnny Phillips, Jonni Phillips, and she does these really weird animation that I really like, and she tends to work mixed media. Like she would do cutouts, she would draw traditionally on paper and color pencil and literally cut it out and actually photographs it. and actually photographs it. And
Isn't there a long history going way back in film of women doing their own odd hand-done animation?
yeah, I think yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. Have you heard of Sally Cruikshank? Okay. Cruikshank. She did Quasi at the Crocodile. Have you ever seen that? It's really, yeah. I definitely recommend. It's very weird and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Hold on, I can.
Yeah,
and it was a very much an underground animation made in the '70s by Sally. Yeah, I can't pronounce her last name. Cruikshank. Here's a YouTube link. Yeah, I linked the YouTube link. Yeah, definitely worth. It's definitely worth checking out, and it's considered one of the greatest indie animation for a reason. Yeah, huge fan.
I bet I've seen it.
Yeah, and she did animation work for Sesame Street for a while too, because Sesame Street hires a lot of weird animators. Yeah, because Sesame Street, tends to hire animators who do weird things, and she's very much in that mold. So she actually did. So if anybody watched, Sesame Street animation for a while,
if you go to that link, you get all her stuff. All you got to do is put your pointer over the top of any one of the images, and they start playing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they're pretty fabulous.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think we all know her work. It's kind of like a background to a lot of culture.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was shown in the indie animation showcases. It was in film festivals for a while. So if you were in the film festival circles, you probably may have seen her work. But yeah, she has just about everything she did. I think almost everything she did. So yeah, definitely check it out whenever you can.
Nice. Very nice.
I think Quasi at the Quackadero in particular was even, preserved in the Library of Congress. I think they did. So it's one of the few animations that they put in their preservation. So that's neat. Yeah, and the
It looks
National
like
Film Registry.
there's a taste of Monty Python in her stuff.
Oh yeah.
Just a bit of a feel of that.
Yeah, there's definitely that Terry Gilliam influence. Yeah.
Playing around with the colors and the forms.
Yeah.
The wonderful silliness.
Oh yeah. I think if I had to compare, it's like if Max Fleischer stuck around into the 1970s, it might, I guess that's how I would describe Quasi. Like if Max
Fleischer met Peter Max.
Yeah, like Max Fleischer and Yellow Submarine mixed together, and maybe Monty Python mixed together, and that's Quasi.
Yeah, it's kind of like what she did.
Yeah, Max Fleischer in the 1970s. Because I'm pretty sure she said she was influenced by Fleischer, so which would explain a lot.
Explains the fish.
Yeah.
Those lips on that fish, it's like, I think I've seen those characters.
Oh yeah, make me sick. Yeah. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, there were a lot of these weird animators in the 70s, but Sally's one of the standouts.
I'm gonna go find one of these other things here real quick.
Hey Charles, have you ever heard of Clutch Cargo?
Yeah.
Live action lips. The live action lips on the static characters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yes, I've heard of it. There's a reason. Has the cartoon have a reputation? It's probably the only reason why anybody remembers that anymore.
Yeah.
They did a whole bunch of shows, but although the studio that made it was Cambria, and oddly the one I remember the most from the Cambria productions was they did a Three Stooges cartoons, and they did not do the live action lips, thankfully. They actually animated the lips, and although the cartoons weren't that good, but
I think I remember that one. It was the same show where they had the real Stooges doing the introduction for it.
Yes, and then they show the cartoons, and the cartoons were awful, but to their credit, that was my first introduction to Three Stooges, so got to start somewhere, I guess. But yeah, this was like very late in their careers, and this was in a And I think they died like a few years after the
Yeah,
cartoons
'cause that
aired.
was
So
the third Curly that they had. Curly Joe, I forget his last name.
Joe Besser, yeah,
Yeah.
because the other two died at that point. Yeah. But yeah, it was they were made by the same studio that did Clutch Cargo, and thank goodness they didn't do the lips thing.
Yeah, those were odd.
Yeah.
Who was it? Was there Space Ghost did that? I don't know. I was growing up back in the 60s and
No, Space
everybody's
Ghost
doing
was,
that lip thing.
I think, man, that may be Space Angels, which was another
Space-
show for the Clutch Cargo studio.
Yeah, they were peculiar.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
like-
there being another one besides Clutch Cargo because they had it on in the background in Pulp Fiction, which is the only way I remember it.
I think they're in public domain, so they never bothered renewing copyright. So anybody can show Clutch Cargo now. You don't need permission anymore.
Yeah, I remember at the channel there was this VHS channel in my back home, which eventually became the Fox affiliate. But while the first 2 years they were starting out, they showed all sorts of obscure 50s and 60s cartoons on it, which was a
Probably got it cheap.
very cheap, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it was a very interesting introduction to some of that old stuff.
What did they show, like Deputy Dog or some sort of?
Yeah, I mean, the Clutch Cargo, that original Hercules cartoon, if you ever saw that.
I
You
know
know, when
exactly that. I think the only I will say this about the Hercules cartoon: the theme song was really good.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I remember the theme song better than I remember the rest of the show. All I remember about the show, besides the song, was that little centaur that gave him all his weapons.
Oh, and he always repeated his dialogue like an echo or something.
Yeah, Echo.
Yeah.
When you consider what his original role in the myths are,
It's it's a kids cartoon, so
they can't show that relationship.
yeah, it was made for kids, so they have
Yeah.
to take liberties with it.
Yeah. We had an odd situation with our we had a lot of live studio clubhouse kind of weird stuff when I was a kid in the 60s. And we also on Saturday morning, all animation was wide open. We would get these. I remember a gorgeous Czechoslovakian cartoon about, I think, a goat approaching a lion in its den, and the drawings were unbelievably gorgeous. And it was in
Ooh.
Czech, so of course, and no subtitles. And
yeah.
there was another crazy cartoon about a Frenchman who was having an emotional breakdown and thought the blob was coming after him, and it turned out that it was a kitten in a sock. And I mean, now this may explain. Bill can probably tell you that I get a little odd sometimes, and maybe I can blame those cartoons.
I mean,
Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Japan. I watched a lot of Japanese animation. Trust me, what they show in the U.S. is the least. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen some really weird shit in Japan in terms of animation. So I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I couldn't sleep at night. My mother gave up and let me have the television on. So here I'd be in at 3 o'clock in the morning and it'd be showing weird shorts from Europe. And let me tell you something. My imagination got very screwed up.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, I know exactly.
One of the joys of YouTube is discovering some of this stuff. I mean, I've been starting to watch some of these absolutely wonderful Russian cartoons.
Oh, God, the Russians.
The Russian Winnie the Pooh.
Their
Did you see
version of
those?
Jungle Book, that is amazing.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah,
They are
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. And I also watched a lot of those National Film Board cartoons from Canada.
Yeah.
They're really wonderful. Like I remember I watched A Cat Came Back, which
that's
was from the
classic.
National Film
Yeah.
Board of Canada, and
Oh,
I think it won an Oscar and everything. That cartoon stuck to me in my mind. I
There's so
still
many
hum
great cartoons.
yeah, and I still hum the song from that cartoon. The cat came back the very next
day.
And then the old guy, goes through increasingly, ridiculous attempts to get rid of the cat, and he ends up blowing himself up in the end.
Yeah.
And then the cat dies because his body fell in the cat. And there are 9 of them now, and that follows him for eternity. Yeah.
As he deserves.
Yeah. Yeah, they actually showed that on Cartoon Network. That's how I saw that.
Oh God.
Yeah, they actually ran those Canadian cartoons on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
That's where I saw most of these.
I remember the Beatles cartoons.
Oh, from
Those were
King.
fun.
I know exactly. Yeah, King
Yeah,
Features.
you know, the Beatles
Yeah,
cartoons.
that was when King Features were making their own cartoons, and they did Cool McCool too.
Cool.
With
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Cool
yeah,
McCool.
it was a spy. It was a James Bond spy spoof, but he talks like Jack Benny.
Yeah,
Oh,
the theme song was like the owl is flying by, frightening to the eye.
Yeah,
Jackal is nearby,
yeah,
Coo is
yeah.
on the fly.
I was actually watching some of those Cool McCool cartoons, because because they were made by King Features and they uploaded every episode. And one thing that stood out for me is that the animation really, really varied because they outsourced to like pretty much every studio all over the world, and I can actually tell which studio did which just from watching. Like the ones with the best animation were the Harry McCool segments that was done in Belgium at Bell Vision, and they did the Tintin cartoons back in the '60s, and King Features outsourced some of the episodes to Bell Vision, and I think they had the best animation, by far. And one thing I remember is they used a lot of smear paint, when the characters move a lot. Like Bell Vision tended to use smears a lot. That I remember. That's what I remember, and yeah, so yeah, I did watch some Cool McCools recently, and yeah, the animation's all over the place because they used whatever studio was available around the world, and
Well, we'll be watching a movie, let's say like The Lion King, and then all of a sudden the scene will come up and it's up. It's the B team. It's the
yeah,
training team. They're training. Or a
oh
movie
yeah,
will come out and you're going, what is this about? Oh, they're training the background cell people. All right, I got it.
yeah, it's
You
very
can
common.
tell it's a training film, but they got to make some money off it.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
tell that with a lot of the Saturday night morning cartoons
yes,
I
yeah,
like, where it got to the point where you could identify what was probably about 3 separate studios.
yeah, yeah.
There's an awful lot of movies that I swear the story and the characters don't mean much because what they're doing is training those background people. Those landscapes are unbelievable. They're fabulous, but I think that's who they're actually training.
Yeah, that happens a lot in Japan too. Like there was like in the 1960s, like one of the big animation studios was Toei, which was a major film studio in Japan, and they had their own animation studio, and they had a training division to train young animators. It was called Children's Corner, and I remember seeing some old Japanese cartoons with Children's Corner in the name, and initially I thought it just meant the target audience. I figured, oh, they made this for children, they made this for kids, so children's. But it turns out it was actually referring to the animators because a lot of the animators literally came right out of high school, so children referred to the animators because there was a training. It was a division that trained young animators to animate, and eventually, they started getting more and more work, because this is a few years after Astro Boy came out, and they needed in all of the animation, and there was demand for animation, but not enough, workforce. So they had to convert Children's Corner to a full-fledged studio just so they had the people, they have enough personnel to draw.
Well, you see Pixar, they see all kinds of young animators being, they appear on the Pixar name and they're just doing their own projects and they're all over the place. It's some wonderful stuff. And there's one animation I will not watch again, even though it's the best one. It's called Kit Bull.
Oh,
I will not watch it again. It is fabulous. It's wonderful. It has a happy ending, but my God, I cannot watch that thing.
Yes, I know exactly. Yeah.
It's wonderfully done.
Yeah, it was a very good cartoon, but
well, what was the name of that again for those of us?
Kit Bull, Kitbull.
Yeah, you'll watch it once, and it's a fabulous cartoon. But you will watch it once. It's like, does anybody remember the movie Monster with Charlize Theron?
Yeah, I remember. I haven't watched it, but yeah.
Okay, you don't want to watch it. She got the Oscar, but even then, they said you don't want to watch this. This thing is nightmarish. Her performance is wonderful. So this kid was kind of like
I watched that movie. I know exactly.
Another one that's like that. Back to animation. Raymond Briggs is When the Wind Blows.
Yeah, yeah. There's some of these you watch them once and that's it. They're marvelous. They're incredible. But you even tell other people don't watch them.
Yeah, it's very heavy, very heavy.
When the Wind Blows.
Well made, but very heavy.
Very heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because When the Wind Blows, I mean, I was a child of the 80s, and I grew up being very paranoid about the inevitable, what seemed to be the inevitable nuclear war at the times. And if I wasn't paranoid about it then, I definitely was after watching that thing.
Yeah, things terrifying.
For me, it's great, here's an anime, Grave of the Fireflies.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
I haven't
once.
been able to get
Never
past
again.
the first half hour of that thing.
Yeah.
It's really
They actually showed that at school
Gorgeous
when I was
movie.
like 10. They actually showed that at school, and I actually watched it, and it was a good film, but once is enough.
It's excellent.
Yeah, it was a very well-made film, but once is enough.
Yeah, most of these you can watch once, but Monster with Charlize Theron, don't. Just don't watch it. It's marvelous. It's well done, but you don't want to watch it.
Yeah,
That thing's a nightmare.
I remember a really good film I saw in school. It was black and white line drawing. Saul Bass, Why Man Creates.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody see that?
No.
No.
Why Man Creates. It's something I saw in elementary school. Very witty. All just line drawings. It just keeps moving vertically. The whole thing I think it's top to bottom or whatever, but just like sort of an endless vertical pan for about 15 minutes, but very clever. And I was able to find it under a search on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. I just did a search.
Not very good.
It's on YouTube, I think.
It was kind of dark, the print, but I was able to find it.
Another creepy cartoon that shouldn't be shown at schools, but always was. Did anybody remember one called More?
What is it? One called
How's it spelled? More?
More, M-O-R-E.
Like the
it's
swamp?
sort of a satire on human consumerism.
Yes. Oh God, yes. That thing. Yeah. High school kids. You can show that thing to high school kids.
Oh, I think I seen that cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's. You know what we're doing? We're sitting here having discussion about how important and how effective animation is. Because we've so far named one live film, and I've got a few live films, but I'll tell you, those animations will just go in there and rip you up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, other ones like with other examples, Barefoot Jen. The manga was enough for me. I do not have the courage to watch the animated version.
Yeah. I read the manga, so I don't know if I want to watch the anime version because the manga was enough. The comic was enough.
Only
chickening out.
Made me cry. Yes.
Yeah. Chicken out on that one.
Yeah, and I lived, not far from Nagasaki. I wasn't that far away from where they dropped the bomb.
That reminds me of a recent one. It's called The Way We Live Here, or How We Live Here. It's about a village that's on the other side of the hill from the Hiroshima explosion.
Ooh.
And what's the name of that thing? How We Live Now.
I heard about that one.
You heard about it.
Really
it's fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. It's really about families, just little by little, people getting used to more and more horrible things, so that little by little, it's like boiling a frog. You start slowly, and so that things that they're shocked at things at the beginning, but as they go farther and farther along just to survive, it gets more and more horrible, but they're starting to laugh at it at this point. It's incredible. You don't get to see the actual explosion. They're on the other side of the hill. And so what you see is a brilliant light and shadow that passes through the village. It doesn't do anything to the village, but they're like, what the hell was that?
Ooh.
The girl that's painting gets in trouble with the Japanese MPs because she's painting the ships. What happens when the military takes over your country?
That's interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. It's something like How We Live Here. I know there's a regular movie called The Way We Are Today. But you know which one I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember reading a review of it, and because I get depressed easily, I never had another film that I don't have the courage to watch.
It's beautiful. If you do have the courage, watch it once. But it's rough stuff. Beautifully drawn, watercolor.
Okay, yeah. This is a more lighthearted film. So this is much more lighthearted and more fun. There was a film in the 70s, and it was, so the interesting thing is the guy literally drew directly on a film stock on 35 millimeter film, and it was this pair of stick figure legs just walking around kicking stuff, and then suddenly turns into this nightmarish thing where one of the balls he kicks turns into a giant spider that keeps chasing him, and
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was Kick. It was called Kick. By Robert Swarth.
Oh, if you want to see somebody who is doing very, very simple animation on YouTube, look up Birds with Arms. Birds with Arms. They take regular film of birds and they do stick figure arms on them doing silly things. Like a bunch of ducklings are chasing a cat and the person has drawn the arms like this.
Oh, I have to look that
which is freaking the cat out. It is beyond hilarious, and all it is birds with arms.
Yeah. Okay, I found a cartoon. It's actually called Kick Me. And yeah, here's
Kick
a YouTube.
Me, right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and it got nominated for Oscar, although it didn't win. But yeah, it's a draw, like there were a few animation where they drew directly on, like Norman McLaurin, did a lot of animating directly on film thing. But I think what this one stood out is it actually has a bit of a quote unquote narrative, what look like, in that the legs are actual character doing stuff, and I kind of want, there's a lot of effects in that, and like towards the end, the film literally, gets burns, and I'm kind of wondering how he did all the special effects in that. And the film starts to burn and the legs, go up, trying to escape, and there's a lot of fourth wall breaking, and it makes me wonder how he did all of that, especially in 1970s movie technology. So that was a fascinating film for me.
Charles, kind of switching tone a little bit. Have you ever heard of Dean Dodrill? He's known as Noogie, and he does An Elysian Tale.
No, I never heard of that one.
He back in the 90s, he started to make a feature-length film in kind of a Disney style all by himself.
Oh, wow.
And there are still bits and pieces of it all over the internet. He finally gave up, but he was going to do 850,000 cells by himself.
Oh, wow.
And he actually made significant progress on it. And he kind of got derailed because he actually made a video game out of it, and he sold it. He sold it to Steam, and he actually made a lot of money. And I think he kind of gave up on the animation project after that. But what you're doing kind of reminds me of what he was doing, in that he was going to do everything himself. There was nothing going to be outsourced to anybody. He was going to do all the animation chores, all the watercolor backgrounds. Wow. Everything, and the only thing he didn't do was the voices. He had other people.
Yeah.
I'll throw a link on the
nice.
Chat.
Nice. I wouldn't mind doing everything. The only reason I'm doing everything myself is because I don't have the money to pay other animators. But if I do, I would definitely hire other animators if I could. But yeah.
I brought up an animation before called Hoodwink.
Oh,
that was done $5,000. And how did he get Meryl Streep and Patrick Warburton on board?
Wow.
I keep wondering how he did that, because he's got these major actors, and he did the studio did this entire film for $5,000.
Yeah, because sort of like I remember Robert Rodriguez talking about how he got the big names, was only booking them for about 2 days, but with $5,000. I don't see how that would have worked for them.
I don't know how you do it. I don't know how he got that, but you sometimes see projects both in film and animation in which you've got major names and you're thinking they must be drinking buddies. Well, they got hobbies.
Yeah, speaking of which, okay, so there was a rather infamous Christmas special from like 20 years ago called Rhapsody Street Kids, and it was a really badly made, very poor CGI animation, but it gained it was notorious because they had a lot of famous actors doing voices, like Mark Hamill. He did voices, and Nancy Cartwright, Bart Simpson. Not only did she do voices, she was a co-producer on it, and Paige O'Hara, who's Belle from Beauty and so there was this really terrible looking animation, but they got all these famous actors doing voices, and and apparently the budget was like $500,000, but it was very obvious that most of it went to the voice actors and not much was left over for the animation. And but it kind of it was one of those so bad it's good.
Oh God, we
films,
had
like Plan 9, or Manos, but yeah.
Somebody just found the YouTube.
Oh God, yeah. It's a really It's one of those things where you only watch once, but only because it's actually terrible. But the fact that they got all these big name voice actors involved is amazing, for this really amateurish looking production. But
I don't know, it's kind of charming.
But they had the money to pay for it, so I guess. So yeah.
It's like when they did Hoodwink. They said they didn't have a lot of money, so they decided to go for the Gumby look. And when I first saw it, it was like, why are you doing? Oh, you're doing that on purpose. Okay.
But somebody wrote an article about the making of this special, like 20 years later, and they actually interviewed the people involved, and apparently the animation software they use, it wasn't meant for professional production. It was meant for home use, for PowerPoints and to make animated GIFs, but that should have been a red flag. It was never meant for serious professional work. But it's kind of akin to making a cartoon out of MS Paint, and getting, I don't know, like, Mark Hamill to do voices for the MS Paint animation, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it's always astounding what people will do.
Yeah, and it actually aired on TV once and then never again. So.
Hey, Charles. Sorry. Do you remember, switching back to print for a moment, do you remember what issues or what years you were in MAD?
Yes, it was 2017 to 2019. Actually, I can. Yeah,
I might have copies around.
Yeah, hold on. There's a website called madcoversite.com, and it actually documents every single issue, and you can actually. And yeah, hold on a sec. So this is a list of. Yeah. Here's a list of issues I was involved in, and.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
And
nice. Cool.
And if you go to and if you go to this, and if you scroll down, you can your name is on the list too. Looks like you worked in 3 issues, 323, 343, and 348.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the one I remember the most is about the comic strip stamps that came out in 1996.
Yeah.
You did that one, and that's the one I remember the most. The comic strip stamps, spoof.
Yeah, that got picked up in an anthology.
Yeah, that was in the because I have the MAD put out a book, all about the comic strip spoofs, and they reprinted that one. Yeah. And the other one I remember is where they had this X-rays of popular comic strip characters and how the bone structures don't makes sense, if you actually.
That's funny.
I think that one was Sergio Aragonés's ideas, like other people fleshed it out, but I think Sergio came up with the idea, and they went with it. Yeah.
Funny.
And yeah, but yeah, I was published, pretty late, yeah, since I was in 2015 and 2015 and 2017, so yeah, I came in pretty late, just a few years before they switched to reruns. So
By the way, a week ago, Al Jaffe hit his 100th birthday.
Yeah, I sent him a card. Yeah,
I did too.
Yeah, hopefully he likes it. I don't know what you thought of it, but yeah, I did send him a card, and yeah, I was tempted to do my own version of Foden, but I decided not to, both because I couldn't think of anything, and because I'm very certain that everybody else did it anyway. So I kind of ended up drawing Al Jaffe surrounded by cats, because it's my thing, and just so I could say Al Jaffe is one cool cat. So yeah, hopefully he liked it. Yeah, I kind of rushed to get it out. I kind of rushed it because I wanted to make sure you get it in time. But yeah,
I did a tribute cartoon. He's been turned into a heart. You can't really see it on the screen here, but
yeah, I can see
his character and his hair turn into the arteries and veins coming out of a heart.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
Yeah. I remember, Sergio had his own comic book called Gru. Yeah, he did a story where Al Jaffe played one of the villains, I think, and even had the hair, and it's all in good fun. But yeah, he did a character that was caricatured after Al Jaffe, and I thought that was neat. I love it when they do. I love it when I know Sergio does that a lot, so I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, Sergio's a sweetheart. Yeah. Speaking
I've heard the stories, but I've never had the pleasure of meeting him. So
yeah, I got to meet him. Yeah, I met him a few times on the NCS get-togethers, and yeah, he did a sketch of Gru for me that I have somewhere in my sketchbook. But
can I do a little brag here?
Sure.
He actually bought one of my drawings at one of the shows.
Very nice.
He came.
Cool.
And
very nice. And, yes, I know Sergio has a huge collection of original art from other cartoonists. So yeah.
Well, a great cartoonist is always a fan too.
Yeah.
I always love everybody else's work.
Yeah. He's very nice. Yeah. I remember somebody telling me that Sergio apparently chased Mike Peters around because he wanted a sketch from him.
I believe it, because he likes his art.
Oh yeah. Mike Peters is good. Mike Peters is like 70, but he has the energy of a 20-year-old man.
Oh, I tell you, some of those guys.
Yeah, he's very good. I can believe it, I read his cartoons, and so he was exactly like what you would expect from what he draws. That's Mike Peters.
You talk about Mike Peters, or talk about Sergio?
Mike Peters, but I guess that describes Sergio too.
Yeah, he pretty much is who he draws.
Yeah. I remember I actually have, there was a Mother Goose Groom TV cartoon. I actually have a few animation cells because somebody was selling them cheap, and I remember asking Mike about that cartoon, and he seemed to have fun with it. Apparently he would fly to Hollywood every week from Ohio to work on a cartoon, but yeah. It only lasted one season, but yeah, they actually kept the thick brush line in the animation. And Mark Evanier was at that NCS, and I asked him about that cartoon because he worked on it. And Lee Mendelson was the producer, and apparently he paid extra out of his pockets just so they would, hand ink the cells, to match the strip style, because otherwise it was just going to be thin line like everything else. But Lee Mendelson but CBS basically told him, if they want to, have the animation match the strip style, he would have to pay for it himself. So Lee Mendelsohn did.
Oh.
Lee Mendelssohn's the guy who produced those Peanut specials, and he was, he was a big comic strip fan. So he produced a lot of strip adaptations, including Peanuts, Garfield, and Mother Goose and Grimm. And I think Kathy too, but I don't remember.
I don't think I ever remember an animated Kathy cartoon.
Yeah, it was through, the same studio that did the Peanut specials, Bill Melendez, and with Lee Mendelsohn. I think Lee Mendelsohn was involved too. So yeah.
I know Roberta Gregory had a few of her Bitchy Bitch cartoons.
Oh, yeah, Bitchy Bitch. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did a cartoon based on that, right?
Yeah. And they
Yeah,
always wish they'd used we had the Bitchy Bitch play once, and they had the woman that was playing Bitchy, Maggie Bloodstone, and she should have done the voice.
Who did I get
She had this raw voice.
Oh wow. I want to see that now. Yeah. I know they made a Bitchy Bitch cartoon, but I wish I can't find it online.
Roberta will be able to find it. She's got the links and stuff. I know her.
Oh really? Okay. Yeah, I have to write to Roberta.
The raccoon ones aren't Roberta's. Those are Kathy. What's her last name? It's Kathy with a K. I can't remember.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, because somebody just mentioned, did they do the raccoon ones? And that's not Roberta.
Okay. I think I know it. Wait a minute. Hold on. I think that sounds familiar. Was it Kathy Hill by any chance?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
They were just wonderful. They were just little sketchy cartoons. They were hilarious.
Yeah, Kathy. Because isn't she married to an animator by any chance?
Oh.
Because Kathy, Mad Raccoons, was it?
Mad Raccoons. That's
okay. I'm actually friends with Kathy's husband, so that sounded familiar. And yeah, because she's married to an animator. I'm friends with Mark Kosler, who's a Disney animator. So yeah, I remember, that I never met his wife, but I knew she was a cartoonist herself, and I've seen her. Yeah, Kathy Hill. Yes. Mad Raccoons. Yes.
They're delightful.
I love them. I love them. Yeah. He showed me some of his wife's cartoons, and yeah, she's doing paintings. I think nowadays she's doing paintings now. Yeah, but yeah, I love her. I love those strips. Yeah. Kathy Hill. Yeah.
This is becoming a history of animation and cartoons. This particular movie.
Yeah. Hang out with me, and I'll talk about old animation.
Mostly obscure cartoons. You have to be a certain age to be familiar with most of these.
Yeah, and I tend to look up. Yeah, I tend to be bored a lot and just look up obscure cartoons just for the hell of it. But yeah, I did. Yeah, I am familiar. Yeah, funny you mentioned Bitchy Bitch, because there was a mini comic, newsletter, and that would interview people who do, zines. And at one point they interviewed, Roberta Gregory, talked about her career. And yeah, I still have it somewhere. Yeah, I have to dig it out and reread it again, because I remember finding it fascinating. And she did talk about the cartoons and the animated cartoons. And
Roberta and
she basically said that the royalties from those cartoons, that was the most money she ever made from Bitchy Bitch, from the animated cartoon royalties. So she said that was the most money she ever made from her strip, which I can believe. Yeah.
Roberta and I were classmates.
Oh, really?
In college.
Yeah. She's from Washington, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but we were.
No, she's from California.
Oh, okay.
Orange County, California. We both went to Long Beach State University together. We were in a couple classes together at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, I remember it was somewhere in the West. Yeah.
Yeah, another person there at the same time was Phil Ye.
Who?
Although he and I didn't have. Phil Ye does Uncle Jam and Frank the Unicorn.
Okay.
Flying
And,
Tiger.
Yeah, Flying Tiger. Yeah.
Flying Tiger and murals. He's famous for organizing murals all over the
I did a
place.
couple murals with him. In fact, Elizabeth Pankey and I, and among others, worked on murals with him. And
did you?
I think he came up to Seattle when I was living in Seattle, and I think we did a mural somewhere in the Seattle area, but I can't remember after so many years where it was. I think the guy who does Rubes, Lee Rubin.
Oh, Lee Rubin. Yeah.
I think he was one of the people who also came up for that mural in Seattle.
Okay.
But that was I don't know, 30 years ago or whatever.
Ooh, wow. Nice. Yeah, that's another strip I remember in my newspaper ran that strip as a kid, so I remember Rubes very well. a lot of cow jokes. But it's a strip called Rubes, so it has to have cows.
Let's see, bitchy bitch.
No, there's Rubber. I found Roberta's website. I'll probably just write to her and if she has any copies.
She's got to have a link or so. I've seen them. I know the only time I've ever seen them is when she's, put a VHS in the television.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I watched them. They were fun.
Yeah, I can believe that. The strips
they were much softened down.
Yeah, it's television.
I would really love to see somebody let her loose.
It'd be interesting for her to put together a YouTube channel because that kind of humor is actually kind of YouTube appropriate.
Yeah.
It
should be a hoot.
Hopefully, I hope she still has the rights to the cart.
She made sure that while there was, let's just say that the whole lawyer's contract thing was hard, and she managed to hang on to her rights to do Bitchy Bitch.
Oh, that's very good.
And so,
I've heard too many.
It was a hard fight.
A relief to know.
Yeah, rough fight. I once told an animator friend, Joanne Mate, who was a storyboard artist on How to Train Your Dragon. I was saying that if anybody ever picked up the Desert Page, I'd just ask for $4 million and then go away and leave me alone. And she kind of went like this, and she went, no writer, no lawyers. They'd jump at it. But you should have, get Roberta to sit down and tell you about the purity horror show of getting keeping her rights to do her own characters when she was doing this.
I guess she won for the most.
She won. She's tenacious. Steve knows her.
Okay.
And so he can tell you that Roberta seems like a very quiet person, but she's tenacious. She's like a bulldog.
That's good.
That kind of reminds me back in the 80s when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles first came out. They first came out as an independent self-publication.
They were minis. They were minis. When they first
actually, the first one was like a black and white. And it was actually kind of R-rated. It was pretty heavy. But my point is that right after this, a whole bunch of studios approached a bunch of the people that I knew that were basically doing fanzines and independents, and they wanted to give them big piles of cash for the rights to their character. And then they didn't do anything with it, but they people were selling their characters. Like, do you remember Tim Corrigan? He was doing a character named Mighty Guy.
Yeah, Mighty Guy.
Yeah, he got some huge payment for them for the rights to Mighty Guy, and it was basically a hands-off thing. After that, they had the rights, but he was able to continue publishing it himself.
Yeah,
until they optioned it, but they never did. But there was a lot of that going on in the mid to late 80s.
It was a Wild West situation back then.
Yeah.
With the the various publishers, distributors. Boy, I'll tell you, there's a distributor I sent a big order of books to, and then they went out of business. But they did that to a lot of people, I tell you.
Oh boy.
The thing,
that was a wild and woolly time in the comics industry.
The corporations were sure there was another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles somewhere out there, and they just needed to buy the rights for it before it became popular.
Yeah, so get it now.
Get it now.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was very crazy.
I will say this, doing my own animation, I will say one good thing is, since I'm doing independent, it means I don't have to, don't have to listen to anybody but myself because there's no studio executive and I keep everything. So, of course, the downside is, no million books, but, you could, although if anybody expresses interest, I'll be willing to listen, if, in an off chance, I reach that level,
Well, what a lot of people are doing now, if you go to YouTube and you can get 1 million subscribers on YouTube, you can actually make a tremendous amount of money in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Like you
I'm hoping I can reach that someday. So
well, it takes a lot of work and steady upload. It's like, go look at the people that are doing Overly Sarcastic, and it was just steady upload and steady work and watching them improve.
You got to keep bringing them back.
Yeah, I mean, there's several channels. There's like Ask a Mortician. She does some marvel. Well, she's about the death industry, and she's one of the funniest people out there. Believe it or not, she's a mortician. And then Tasting History with Max Miller, which just blew up because he does marvelous. He's probably helped by the fact that he's always got a different Pokemon character back here behind him on the table. He's hilarious.
Little things like that keep people coming back to check out.
But he always, well, it doesn't hurt that he's extremely cute and has adorable mannerisms. But look up Max Miller and Tasting History. And I watched him in a few months just blow up. And then, of course, there's one of the biggest channels that there is, and they just started by, silly tryouts, is the Try Guys.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to see a group that has never stopped and that have optioned for movies and everything else, because I don't know when those guys sleep.
Yeah, it's hard work. It's hard work. Yeah.
When you're talking, go ahead.
Go ahead. There's one animation I've been watching on YouTube called Bruce 2. It's basically like, story time animation. He talks about his life, mostly from his childhood. And it's animated very crude. It's a very stick figure.
What's the name of it? What's the name of it again?
Bruce 2. I'll type it out. And it's very cheap looking animation, but it's also really funny. Like, when he tells a story, he just cuts straight to the chase. It's no bullshit. Just cuts straight to the. So it's easy to follow, but also has enough humor in it, and yeah. And
is he animating or just talking?
It's animated. It's animated, little cartoon doodles, but very simple, characters barely move, but it's a cartoon, but he has a very snarky, way of telling his life story. It's actually pretty funny, and
they get a following, and they get a following going. And if you it's a whole matter of, well, it's every time I mention about Patreon, it's a matter of feeding the wolf.
Yep.
Yeah. Just do it.
I have a Patreon, so I know. Exactly. Actually, see you, Steve, and actually,
good meeting. Thank you.
No,
it was really interesting.
No, definitely great. Well, anyway, Charles, thank you so much for your time. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reminder to everybody of if you have a cartoon to add to the Best of the Northwest thread, please do. And an open invitation to everybody for our Thursday drink and draw, which you can find on Eventbrite. I put the link. The link was on the chat twice. If anybody wants to see it again, I can post it one more time.
Well, I guess we should head out, but this has been one of the better meetings. It's just been a whole history of animation and and Charles's cool things, and it was.
You seem to be well connected, Charles, and you've got a good memory for all the names too. I always have to think, it's like, who was that?
I wanted to mention if with all the controversy about Dr. Seuss, you should see his stuff from the 30s and 40s.
Mhm.
Oh,
Like
I've seen it. Oh,
Private
I've seen it.
Snafu.
Well,
Oh,
he
Private
did.
Snap. I have a DVD somewhere.
He did anti-Japanese ones for the military, you know.
Oh, yeah.
which
They were
but
very
it was product of his
incorrect.
time, yeah.
But he was
World War
also fiercely opposed to America First
Mhm.
and the isolationists and
Yes, yes.
7 p.m. It's very easy to find in Google.
The
Oh,
Dr.
yeah.
Seuss thing is really more about the fact that the books really weren't selling that much anymore.
No, definitely.
Yeah, it was just a publisher's got to say, okay, who do we knock out? And I've heard a lot of Black friends, and they said that you try to explain one of these books to the kids, and the kids are like, what the hell is going on there? He even changed some of the drawings over time and said, whoa, I didn't do this right. But
Oh, yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
think we've
He
all seen
edited
what
his
Warner
own stuff.
Brothers did. Warner Brothers puts up their cartoons just as they were, but they got disclaimers on there.
Oh, yeah.
And right there, and it says the reason we're not cutting them and the reason we are showing them is we don't want to deny what we did. We did this.
That is the right thing to do. They should own up to it and say, well, this is a part of the culture at the time.
This is what we did, and this is not a good idea, and so you don't want to do this again. But this was common at the time. Not as an excuse. They're not doing it as an excuse. They're just saying we don't want to try to hide it.
Right.
And sometimes learning from your mistakes makes for better things. For example, Will Eisner's Fagin the Jew graphic novel was partially because of his reassessing his character Ebony.
Mm-hmm.
And while he wanted to do right eventually, he was suddenly realizing, saying, wow, the way people react to Ebony is a lot like how I used to react to Fagin from Oliver Twist, and then he started doing a graphic novel on that subject.
Yeah, you're learning. It's like when I put up my black manuscripts over at San Diego State University. They've got all my early books, and I say right off the bat there is a disclaimer that I was born in a rural area. I didn't know anybody outside my demographic. I had to learn and think, and some of the stuff is, you want to stand back from it a bit, and it can be pretty brutal. But I was trying to learn, and I was trying to think. These were private. I did them for myself, because I think we've all done thousands of drawings that nobody will ever see. Keep them to yourself or burn them. How many have had an artist bonfire? I've had one of those. I think we've all burned some art.
Oh, still do.
And writers too. You're not a creative until you've had a bonfire. This is crap. I'm going to get rid of this.
Oh yeah.
I write a lot of letters, so you know what I do. I get rid of my old art by sending it to people.
I do that actually. I do that with Patreon.
That's what I tell people at San Diego State University, Donna Barr Special Collections. It's just because I don't want to store my own art. I want to get it out of the
I'm hoping I'll reach
zone.
that point someday.
What's that?
I'm hoping I reach that point where I can donate my old art to universities or whatever, just to get rid of them.
San Diego State University has a massive popular cultural collection, and they want everything they can get their claws on. They've got huge pulp fiction and sci-fi booklets and costumes and loads of my artwork. My artwork launched it because we ran all over San Diego Comic-Con and actually got a big expensive booth for the university.
Wow.
And we just, at this point, and this is something, Charles, your work can probably do too, for fundraising and collecting more artwork and for tax purposes, my artwork has been valued at $250,000.
Wow. Very, very nice. Very nice.
So if you approach, I can get you the link. In fact, I'll put my email down here and just have you talk to Pam Jackson over at San Diego State University. She is the librarian of popular culture. She made up her own title.
Nice.
Awesome.
I thought I'd mention too, Washington State University has what they call the special collections, and it was started by Steve Willis, who does Morty the dog. And I just met with him. It was actually a year ago. It was in February. We happened to get together because I was working on a Morty the Dog project for him. And it was right before the pandemic. It was so funny. And he tells me he's still in touch with the special collections at WSU and still sends them everything he receives. And so I thought I'd throw that out too. If you want something preserved forever you could send it to WSU, but it sounds like San Diego has a larger collection.
San Diego started earlier because it's climate controlled. And it's growing based on the stuff that's coming in. It's kind of like growing off itself. It's getting bigger. It's up on top of a hill where it's dry away from the earthquake areas. And like I say, Pam is, they're also considering this something that their students can write about and study and organize. One student got points simply by scanning all my artwork.
Nice,
I mean, they get that, they want to do that. And so San Diego State University, like I say, I just left my email, and anybody can talk to me about talking to Pam Jackson, or over at
I'll send you a note.
San Diego. She's great. She's a lot of fun. She shows up at the San Diego Comics Fest.
Can you put a link here in the chat?
Well, I just did. I put my email in there. I don't have the link off the top of my head right now.
Okay, thank you.
Although, if you go to donnabar.com, you'll see a link to the special collections, at least my end of it. And then it will also link into other special collections. It's mine's kind of massive. It's got artwork and, the scrapbook from the musical and, all kinds of stuff. And like I say, it's just great because I had stacks and stacks and stacks of artwork. And now they've got it. Because, when you live in a tsunami zone, your first thought is, what am I going to do if the water comes? What'll happen to all my artwork? Well, I don't have it.
Nice.
Yeah. So, Charles, they would no doubt, if you've got animations and especially a known series like that, yeah, I bet they would very much like to talk to you.
Oh, yeah. I'll definitely get into, definitely take a look.
I don't know how much animation stuff they have there, but if they could start an animation section, that would probably not break their little hearts.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't mind. Oh, yeah. That'd be good. Yeah.
I was going to ask before we break up, is there any plans to start meeting in person?
Oh, unfortunately, too soon to tell. I mean, I'm pretty much following what the safety regs say. So the way it's sounding right now, it sounds a lot like the president's prediction about 4th of July, who hopefully it's sooner than that, but.
Well, they still have the problem with this thing is mutating so fast. And we're probably going to have these shots every year and hope that we can stay up with it, because this one mutates fast. It's got a huge food base. It's got 7 billion species members to eat, and it's going for it. I mean, when you have a huge overpopulated animal population, something will mutate to eat it, and this one's done it. And it's mutating fast. They've got strains in Africa. They've got the U.S. strain, the British strain. Wherever they are, they're mutating for their area.
One in Argentina.
The Argentinian strain, and this one is moving so fast, and it's almost as though, I'm not going to say it. You can't say no about a virus, but if we can figure out how much DNA was available in humans a million years ago. Because a virus might be the same kind of machinery, perhaps it can tell how much food is out there. I'm not saying it can. I asked the biologist about this, and she was like, I don't think so. The only thing she did tell me was COVID opens up little aneurysms over your entire body, including your brain, and they stay. I'm keeping my mask on.
Yeah, no, I have. It's sort of, I'm definitely not burning my collection when this is over.
Well, we're keeping ours because this entire area up here, the hospital in Forks has had 1 case of the flu.
Yeah.
We've had no colds.
Anyway, I need to head out.
Yes, no, sorry.
Yeah, we should all do that. Yeah, sorry. We all get to talking too much.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
This is a ball. We got to do this. I hope we can do this with beer.
Yeah.
We can, with the drink and draw.
Yes, Thursday 25th. Everybody, open invitation. Hope to see you all there. But in the meantime, thank you again, Charles. And I think we'll drop it off here. And everybody have a fantastic evening.
Thank you. Happy spring.
Happy spring.
Yes, definitely happy spring.